Welcome to Solve It Like a Marketer and my playlist, Marketing Terms A to Z. Now, this week's letter is B for Behavioral Learning Theories. Now, as always, please subscribe, hit that bell to be notified of new episodes every week, and don't go away. So I love delving into psychology and or consumer behavior in marketing. It's really so important that we understand these concepts and apply them to our everyday practice. But why? Well, in consumer behavior, we consider how vivid memories are linked to brand recognition. Now, if marketers can create long-standing connections between products and services and the mind of the customer, they hope this will actually lead to brand loyalty. Memories are created by learned actions, either observed or taken by an individual. We learn directly or vicariously by observing events that affect others. Sometimes we learn without doing anything. For instance, consumers recognize many brand names. They maybe can hum product jingles, even if they don't use those products. Know of any? So understanding consumer psychology is paramount to unlocking the consumer purchase decision process. And there are three types of behavioral learning: classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning, with a caveat. Classical conditioning, also known as Pavlov behaviorism, involves pairing a neutral stimulus with an involuntary or natural reaction, thus creating an association that results in a conditioned reaction. So with classical conditioning, the most well-known example, of course, is Pavlov's dog and that experiment. Now, this basic form of classical conditioning focuses on visual and olfactory cues that induce physiological responses such as hunger, thirst, or sexual arousal. Now, typically people respond involuntarily, often on the basis of very automatic responses. And in marketing, when these types of cues are paired with a stimuli, such as a brand name, consumers may learn to feel hunger, thirst, or aroused when exposed to those brand cues. Operant condition, also known as instrumental conditioning, focuses on using either reinforcement or punishment to increase or decrease a behavior. So through this process, an association is formed between the behavior and the consequences of that behavior. Imagine that a trainer is trying to teach a dog to fetch a ball. When the dog successfully picks up the ball, the dog receives praise as a reward. When the dog fails to retrieve the ball, no praise. So eventually the dog actually forms an association between the behavior of fetching the ball and receiving that reward or positive response. So in marketing, as an example, say a store owner of a new store might award shoppers with coupons of 20% off if they come into the store in person. Now here, the consumer is rewarded for their action of coming in. In future, they may keep an eye out for the store giving out similar offers. This is a learned response. And finally, observational learning. Now, this involves the observation of others and possible adoption of these behaviors, also known as shaping and modeling. So observational learning is most common in children as they imitate behaviors of adults. But a good example in marketing is, say, person A is in a jeans store and observes an individual, person B, buying a pair of jeans. Now, for some reason, person A relates to person B and then considers buying that same product. Now, here's the caveat. Observational learning straddles both cognitive and behavioral learning theories. So it's not actually strictly behavioral because it involves the internal process of evaluating situations, i.e., using cognitive functions. Now, in my next video, I'm going to be delving into cognitive learning so that you can get a better idea of the differentiation between the two. Okay, so you know what? It's so interesting to me that there are many marketers that really refuse to take psychology into account. It's almost like paint by numbers for them. Orange, let's use orange because I like the color orange. It's the trick is to not fall into the rabbit hole, right? We're not studying psychology, but we're more studying consumer behavior. And I think that there are so many applications to these particular theories. And really, you just need to understand the basic approach. You don't need to go too deep. And then keep it in the back of your mind in terms of all the marketing work that you do. So I mentioned three, right? I mentioned within this behavioral learning sphere, I mentioned classical and operant, and then behavioral, which again, as I mentioned, straddles, observational, which straddles behavioral and cognitive. So the trick, and some psychologists view this, is with this particular approach of behaviorism, they really view the mind as a black box, okay? So remove all cognitive function. What we're looking at here are trained responses. So if we take classical conditioning, for instance, I know that, I can't remember where it was. I think it was in South Korea. Might have been South Korea. They did an experiment with a coffee brand. And in their buses, and I think bus stops, bus shelters as well, they had these little puffers that went off. So people would be sitting in the bus and it would give off periodically the aroma of coffee, of freshly brewed coffee. And then they tracked how many people immediately went in search of a coffee after that. So that is a very good example of classical conditioning. Most of us know what brewed coffee smells like. And if we smell that, does that trigger something, right? Many times it's not a cognitive function. It's not, okay, I just smelled this, therefore maybe it would be nice to have a coffee, right? Usually it is almost like Pavlov's dog salivating, right? So for him, the experiment was ring the bell and the dog would salivate because the dog associated the bell with being fed. Same thing here. You're smelling the coffee, and this is triggering a response. We have many jingles, like pizza jingle, Coca-Cola. And you might hear this and think, oh, I really want a slice of pizza. Or you hear Coca-Cola on an ad on the radio or something when you're out. And you don't really say to yourself, I just heard the jingle for Coca-Cola. It may happen subliminally. And you say, wow, I suddenly feel really thirsty. So this is pure classical conditioning. And so many marketers are able to play with this. Now, with operant conditioning, as I mentioned, it's more about, it's so funny putting it this way, it's more about teaching the consumer a positive versus a negative response, right? It's terrible to think this way. But again, I gave the example of a dog, right? So dog fetches ball, dog is petted on the head. Dog doesn't fetch ball, no positive reinforcement. And this is all it is. It's positive reinforcement. So For instance, I'm going to take the brand IKEA here, and this may be stretching a bit, and you can let me know if I'm stretching it too much. But IKEA has built its brand on the very foundation that you can get good deals and pretty high quality. You can buy a lot of stuff, especially if you're a new apartment owner, a new homeowner. You can fully furnish your place, right? So they're kind of using operant conditioning here. You know that with IKEA, you can get good deals. So you're already walking into that store or looking online with that particular mindset. The mindset is not, I need to find a good deal, but IKEA is such a wonderful company and so kind to me individually that I'm going to be able to find a good deal. And even, of course, the way there's a lot of psychology within IKEA as to how they lay out their stores. It's a very specific pathway that you have to take in order to get to the different sections. And they thought about this. They thought about what you're going to see and when. And all of this does apply operant conditioning. It's like a reward, right? You may go through the bedding section and go, okay, great. I came for a new duvet. But then you pass pillowcases. Well, if I'm going to get a duvet, I might as well get pillowcases as well. I might as well get a duvet cover, right? Then you turn another aisle. Oh, look, there are side tables. Maybe I should update my side table. Turn another corner. Oh, look, lamps for side tables for the bed area. So all of this is carefully crafted, right? So that's operant. Now, observational, which again, I'm going to do another video next week on observational, actually specifically on cognitive learning theory, which is really fascinating. But I will touch on observational right now. Social media, right? I gave the example of a jeans store, and sure, that's a very typical example. You go into a store, you see somebody that somehow you relate to, somebody that might buy the sorts of things that you would, and you see them and you go, oh, they're buying that. Maybe that would be appropriate for me. So you've observed that. Now, social media is all about observational learning because people are showing products that they've bought, vacations that they've taken, you name it. They're sharing their entire lives on social media. Now, some people may resonate with you, some people may not. But the people that do resonate with you and you kind of connect with, again, subliminally, you're going to be looking at that going, interesting. You know, they bought X product or they used X or Y service. Maybe that's a good product or service for me. Okay, so those are the three. Again, you know, it goes much, much deeper if you want to dive into the psychology textbooks, but this is kind of the basic as it would apply to marketing within the sphere of consumer behavior. So you know what? You let me know what you think. If you have other thoughts, you've encountered these terms before, maybe there are other aspects to it that I haven't mentioned in this video and you want to share with others. So please do. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button and please share so that others can also enjoy my videos. Now, if there is a marketing term that you'd like me to cover, please mention it in the comments section below. You can also buy me a coffee for those long nights researching and writing these episodes. You can catch me on Instagram and Facebook for extra content, never miss a new episode, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll see you weekly with a new video, so please stay tuned, and together, let's solve it like a marketer.